Welcome back to my Sword Art Online rewrite. Today we're going to be covering Season 2. Why am I doing more of this? Well, first of all, you guys seem to really enjoy it. So, here I am. It's not like I'm doing this to cope with the fact that I actually really like SAO and wish it was a much better anime. No way! Anyways, if you haven't watched part 1, check it out in the description and pinned comment down below. And for you guys who are back, let's get right into Season 2. But before we get on with the episodes, just a quick little recap. Kirito and Asuna split up their party after the Floor 25 boss. Asuna is now Vice Commander of Knights of the Blood Oath and only cares about escaping the game. Meanwhile, Kirito has embraced his role as a solo player, deciding it's best for everyone to stay away from him. The season starts with the Floor 30 raid, as a terrifying demonic sea creature stands in the players' way. The raid party is made up of members from several other guilds, including Klein and his footing Kazan. Heathcliff is absent, but leading the charge is Asuna, whose carefree nature has been entirely replaced with a burning desire to clear the game. With her expert leadership, the boss is cleared with ease. And after the boss, Klein comes up to her, saying she's doing a great job as Vice Commander. She thanks him before looking around. No sign of Kirito anywhere. Back at the KOB headquarters, Asuna gives her report to Heathcliff, who was quite pleased. He says more and more players have enlisted with the guild since she took up the mantle of Vice Commander. The morale for clearing the game has never been higher. Asuna thanks him for the praise, but she's clearly upset. Heathcliff asks if this is about the Black Swordsman, since he hasn't been seen at the last 5 boss raids, and she nods. Heathcliff tells her not to bother with him. He was foolish enough to turn her away, which makes him, frankly, an idiot. But despite this, Asuna can't shake off her anxiety, wondering where her former partner is, if he's even alive. At the same time, on Floor 27 of Aincrad, amidst a deep mystical forest, we see Kirito taking on a group of monsters single-handedly. He makes quick work of them before taking out a map and eventually reaching what seems like a rundown church. He investigates the mural of the gods on its ruined walls, depicting what seems to be Aincrad amidst flames, with the dark god smiling. This updates his Axiom Church quest, as the next phase activates. In the time since he left Asuna, Kirito has put all his focus on clearing other objectives in the game, as SAO allows him to be this strong person. Plus, with Asuna on the raid team, they don't really need him. All of a sudden, Kirito stops right in his tracks, as an arrow lands right in front of him, as from a distance, someone aims another arrow at the solo player. The barrage continues, with the arrow's aim having extreme precision. Despite Kirito's insane skills and stats, he's being overwhelmed. This forces him to use a teleport crystal to escape to the nearest safe zone. The sniper gets irritated, their full face still hidden. The next day, Kirito seeks out Argo on Floor 28, meeting at a tavern. Argo asks how he's been, and that him and Asuna should really hit a bagel sometime. Kirito tells her to drop it. He doesn't want to talk about Asuna. Argo is clearly annoyed by this, but Kirito is paying her, so they get straight to business. Kirito asks Argo about the sniper who attacked him, and Argo says they've gained a reputation as the Phantom Archer. Apparently, they've killed super bosses with only 4 arrows, while also killing multiple players on the lower floors, which has led to them getting a bounty from both the ALS and DKB. The annoying part is, nobody has ever seen their face. Kirito thanks Argo for the info before leaving, but she stops him. She says that Asuna is worried about him, that he really needs to let her know he's alive. Kirito just grunts and walks away. Meanwhile, we pick up with Leafa on Floor 12, who's been in the game for quite a while. A couple things have occurred since then. First of all, just like Kikuoka thought, all contact between the Force and her was cut off as soon as she entered the game. Even if they're getting data from her nerve gear, she has no idea what they're even extracting. Secondly, nobody seems to know a Kazuto in the game. But knowing her brother, he's probably on the higher floors. He's too much of a hardcore gamer not to be. She's had to lie about her time in the game, passing her off as an American exchange student due to her appearance. In that time, she's gotten a lot stronger, but not enough to go to the higher floors. She's not risking it with how behind she is. While taking on a high-ranking monster, Leafa falters, and she thinks this might be it. All of a sudden, a singing voice is heard and she's healed. Then a swordsman appears out of nowhere, saying to lend him a hand. The two defeat the monster together, and afterwards, the two other players introduce themselves as Nautilus and Yuna. Episode 26 begins with the trio sitting at a restaurant together. Leafa learns that Nautilus is part of the KOB, and that him and Yuna are in a party together. Yuna talks about how before she met Naut, she was hopeless, letting the grief of the game consume her, but now she's doing all she can to become a great healer. Leafa thinks it's great, and she can see the romantic tension between the two, which results in some snarky remarks. Yuna says she should join their party, but Leafa says wouldn't she just be third-wheeling? But Nautilus, albeit embarrassed, says it's fine. She seems competent enough. And so Leafa joins up with them, hoping that by working together she can get strong enough to find Kazuto. Speaking of which, Kirito is doing some grinding outside of town on floor 29. A mob gets the jump on him, but before he's hit, a dagger comes out of nowhere, hitting the mob's weak spot and killing it. Kirito looks over as a girl walks up to him, introducing herself as Sinon. She hands him a potion, telling him to drink it, and he does. After that, she recognizes him as a notorious black swordsman, and despite not wanting to, Sinon insists he buy her lunch as a thank you. While sitting down, the two talk. Sinon says she's been playing SAO with her boyfriend, so it's been a lot easier to cope with the whole death game situation. Kirito says she can drop the friendly act. Phantom Archer. Sinon is shocked, asking how Kirito knew. He says it was obvious. That potion was clearly poisoned. Plus, he noticed her a couple of minutes beforehand, so he took a null debuff potion before she came out. Sinon is shocked, but she says that she isn't here to kill him. Kirito says she isn't doing a good job at being convincing, but she just hands him a piece of paper before leaving. It's coordinates, signed by a man named Red-Eye Zaza. Kirito knows who this is all too well. He's a high-ranking member of Laughing Coffin. Sinon returns to floor 28, in a misty and decrepit forest, where Red-Eye Zaza waits for her. The two embrace one another in a hug. Zaza says that she's such a good girl, calling her by her real name, Asada Shino, and that as long as she sticks with him, they'll be able to live in this reality forever. We see flashbacks to the real world, where a younger Asada is sad and a young man reaches out to her with a comforting smile. That image erupts into flames, revealing Zaza's vicious and murderous glare. Sinon trembles, but she pushes past it and kisses him, saying that this is her world now, that she won't leave the only person she's ever loved behind. She won't allow him to become something else entirely and lose himself to this world, even if it means abandoning who she is and becoming a murderer. We transition back to the KOB headquarters, where Asuna and Heathcliff spar. The duel is pretty one-sided. Despite Asuna's skill, Heathcliff is just on a total other level. I mean, he's called SAO's best player for a reason. After winning, Heathcliff says she's getting better, but her reflexes could be even faster. Asuna thanks the commander for the sparring session, before leaving. Outside, she's approached by a girl with purple hair, who pats her shoulder saying she did amazing. Asuna berates her, asking why she's not in uniform, and the girl just laughs. This is Yuki, a member of the KOB who Asuna has become quite close with. Yuki asks her to come along shopping with her, and Asuna insists she needs to train. But Yuki won't let her, dragging her along to town. While they shop, we really get to see the more human side of Asuna, how Yuki has sort of become this anchor for the vice commander after Kirito left. In a moment of weakness, Asuna says she has a friend she wants to go after, but she says he may not want to see her. Yuki comforts her, saying that if it's someone she truly cares about, she'll go anyway, and if she ever needs help, she'll be right there with her. The episode ends with Kirito entering some abandoned ruins on floor 27, meeting up with Sinon and Zaza. Episode 28 is all about the meeting between the Black Swordsman and Laughing Coffin. Zaza says that their leader has heard all about his edgy little solo act, and while it's cute, it's helping nobody, not even himself. He tells Kirito to admit it, that he loves living in Aincrad. He yearns to be this ideal version of himself. In an almost grotesque manner, he grabs Sinon, saying that in this world, him and his beloved could live the way they've always wanted, away from all the bullies that tormented him. He says that Kirito should join them, that by working together they can make sure they can continue to live as the best versions of themselves. Kirito calls Zaza delusional. Yeah, he does like living in SAO more than the real world. But this isn't just about them. He might have left the raid team, shut everyone out, but he will never stop the people he cares about from clearing the game. They have lives outside of Aincrad. Zaza groans, disappointed, and tells Sinon to deal with him. This leads to a duel, swordsman versus sniper. During it, Kirito pleads for her to rethink her actions, that killing people to live in a fantasy isn't the way to go about it. Sinon says it's the only way to keep her boyfriend even a little bit like himself. But Kirito says her boyfriend is gone, replaced with a monster. The battle rages on until Kirito gets Sinon into the yellow, and then cancels the duel. She asks where he's going, and Kirito says he won't kill another person. As he walks away, Sinon shoots him in the back, but he just keeps walking, telling her there's more to life than just SAO for her. She asks what about him, and he says that this is all he has. But she has a chance to truly live once this is all over. With that, Kirito walks away, making Sinon ponder what he said. She thinks back to her boyfriend's comforting smile, holding her down like a shadow, and it once again engulfs her, gaslighting herself into thinking Kirito knows nothing. Episode 29 focuses solely on Leafa's gang, as they help out another player by the name of Silica, a beast tamer who wants to capture a dragon on floor 14. Working together, the group makes their way through a dungeon where the dragons are said to live. You can really see how close the three have become, as they accommodate each other super well in battle. Eventually, Silica is able to find a dragon and tame it, naming the creature Pina. She thanks the group before adding her name to their friends list. This allows Leafa to really see how people are still living inside of SAO, and how much she appreciates having friends in the game. Episode 30 starts on floor 32, as Asuna and Yuki are taking on a super boss in the field. It's here where we get to see Yuki's strength as a player, with Asuna even remarking that she could best Kirito one day if she really wanted to. After taking out the boss, Yuki falls over and starts to cough. Asuna asks what's wrong, and Yuki says she's just feeling a little sick, walking away nervously. Asuna's confused. Nobody can get sick in SAO, so what's going on? Before Asuna can question her further though, she and Yuki are called back to the KOB headquarters for a guild meeting. Everyone is there, including Not. It's here where Heathcliff decides that all high-ranking members will be receiving bodyguards. A knight named Kurudil is appointed as Asuna's, but Yuki stands in the way, saying that nobody else can have her. Kurudil finds her taunts cute, but annoying, and so Heathcliff decides they'll settle things with a duel. Things go as you expect, as Yuki with her unrelenting power shits on the knight, easily winning and being dubbed Asuna's bodyguard. This puts the vice commander's mind at ease. Maybe she was overthinking things. However, that night, Yuki returns to her room, coughing non-stop and even throwing up. Something that just shouldn't be possible in this virtual world. As she falls asleep, a man appears in front of her. It's Kayaba, his hand glowing with code as it falls on Yuki. His only words being, "I won't let you die before it's your time. My world isn't that cruel." Yuki wakes up in a tent. She's a little weirded out and confused, but she looks around to find herself in a dark elf camp. And like the others, she now has elf ears. She's still able to open her menu, but her HP bar is gone. She walks around the elf camp and everyone seems to know her, like she's grown up there all her life. Yuki is confused, saying she needs to get back to the KOB. But the Dark Elves are just as confused, especially one called Kismol, who calls Yuki her younger sister. This gets Yuki absolutely pissed off, as we see a flashback to a young Yuki in the real world, with a girl who looks almost identical to her. She lashes out at the Dark Elf, saying she isn't her sister. In a fit of confusion and rage, she goes into the forest and just starts taking on monsters. But unlike normal, she actually bleeds out when she's hurt, just like Princess Koharu. In a moment of total weakness, she actually almost dies, but is saved as a mob disappears and is met by Kirito. From there, Yuki is all healed up, and Kirito asks what an NPC is doing acting the way she is. Yuki says she isn't an NPC, but a player, a member of the Knights of the Blood Oath. Kirito is shocked. He doesn't understand what he's hearing, and so he reluctantly agrees to take Yuki back to the KOB, back to Asuna. Kirito and Yuki end up at the KOB headquarters and are led to Asuna's office. Asuna, upon seeing them together, is distraught. I mean, this is the first time seeing Kirito since floor 25. Things are awkward. Kirito tells her the situation, not giving her a chance to make small talk. And Asuna is just as confused, saying it might be best to take it up with the commander. Kirito says they got it covered, leaving before Asuna can even talk to him. She's annoyed, sad, but as much as she wants to run over to him, start crying, begging to be her friend again, she knows that it won't happen. She needs to put all of her attention on clearing the game, and more importantly, figuring out what's going on with Yuki. The two meet with Heathcliff, and he says that it's strange. He got a message saying Yuki was amongst the dead players in the guild, and yet, here she is. Yuki says she has a hunch, but it wouldn't make sense. Yuki reveals she's actually a hospital patient, that she got a terminal illness from her mom and decided that SAO could be her escape, allow her to really live before she kicks the bucket. That's why she got sick in the game. It was her real-life illness killing her from the inside. Asuna is completely destroyed by the news, but Yuki says that after today, she doesn't feel any strain anymore. But she's also a dark elf, an NPC. It just doesn't make sense. She can't wrap her mind around it. Heathcliff says that maybe it's a glitch, but he has no clue. Regardless, an NPC can be recruited into the guild, so she's free to take up her bodyguard position. Despite knowing that she bleeds out like a normal person now, Yuki takes the job, saying even if she's now part of the game instead of a real person, she'll dedicate her life to making Asuna's dream of clearing the game come true. Meanwhile, Asuna returns to her quarters, pulling out her friends list. She finds Kirito's name, remarking that he didn't even remove her. She opens a chat box, trying to message him, but can't. Something is stopping her, mentally. After leaving Yuki with Asuna, Kirito decides to head back to the Dark Elf village where she was close to, hoping to learn more. Kirito is surrounded by the Dark Elves, led by Kismol. She tells him to leave, that humans aren't welcomed here. But when Kirito brings up Yuki, Kismol seems to soften up. He tells her about how she thinks she's a human, and was wondering if Kismol could tell him more about her memories of Yuki. Kismol goes into extreme detail about her sister, about her likes, dislikes, favorite color, favorite food, and childhood memories. Stuff only someone who knows a person super well could actually know, not just the program. And Kirito gets all the info he wants, and Kismol asks him to leave, and so he goes. Outside the forest, he runs into Argo, and he asks her if she followed him, which she reluctantly admits. At the same time, outside the Elven Forest, Asuna rushes to the village, seeking answers of her own. Back to Argo and Kirito, the two discuss the incident with Yuki and the elves. Kirito remarking that they are way more sophisticated than the NPCs on lower floors. But Argo says that even those NPCs have started to act more human-like as well. Almost like the longer SAO goes on, the more alive it becomes. Kirito wonders if this is all part of Kayaba's plan, but Argo takes a complete 180, saying that maybe they should discuss this with Asuna back at Eggles. Kirito says she already knows his stance on this, but she lashes out at him, saying he's being a complete jerk. Kirito tells her to drop it, and the two even grab their weapons. But before they can start a fight, a masked girl appears behind them, and the two chase after her. The girl is the same one from the room full of code, and eventually Kirito and Argo catch up to her. The girl says they are learning more about what SAO really is, but they aren't quite there yet. With the snap of her fingers, the girl summons a giant fire monster, which roars and burns away the surrounding trees. The girl disappears, leaving Kirito and Argo to fight the beast alone, and if they don't stop it, the Dark Elf village is doomed to burn to ash. Meanwhile, Asuna sees the fire from a distance, and using her overwhelming speed, charges into the forest. Kirito and Argo are dealing significant damage to the monster, but it's still not down. It hasn't even reached half HP. Argo starts to panic, saying that this thing is on the same level as a floor boss. No, maybe even higher. Things start looking desperate, but Asuna shows up, landing a hit and driving it back. Kirito and Asuna exchange a look at one another, nodding. Forced to work together, Aincrad's dynamic duo takes on the monstrous foe in front of them, with help from Argo of course. At one point, Kirito makes a mistake, forcing Asuna to save him. The fight continues on, with Kismo and the Dark Elves looking on from the village, preparing their defenses. But there's no need. Kirito and Asuna pull off their iconic combo attack, and the monster is defeated. Argo and Asuna exchange a high five, but Kirito tries to walk away. Asuna stops him, saying that they really do need to talk. Argo, recognizing the totally not romantic tension in the air, politely excuses herself. The two say nothing for a few seconds before Asuna pleads for Kirito to come back with her to the KOB. Kirito is shocked. Him in a guild? But Asuna says that the situation with Yuki made her realize she's not this cold vice commander she's tried to convince herself she is. She was angry when he left, and that became a desire to get out of this game as quick as possible, to forget about him as quick as possible. But when she almost lost Yuki, it was a wake-up call. She can't do this alone. She needs her partner. No, her best friend back. You can see the look of total relief in Kirito's eyes, but despite this, he tells Asuna he can never go back. She asks why, and he says it's simple. In the fight, she saved him. She's fine. After all, there's Heathcliff, Yuki, Klein. All these people will help her clear the game. Asuna calls him an idiot, saying that her stance wouldn't change even if he was SAO's worst player. With a sad look, Kirito tells her from now on, it's best not to consider him a player, just a swordsman from a far-off country village. Completely broken, Asuna doesn't know how to take this, and Kirito says that while he would never stop anyone from clearing SAO, this is his salvation. He recounts the shut-in he was in the real world. He asks Asuna why he would ever want to go back to being that. After observing all the changes going on in SAO currently, Kirito says it's time for him to leave the real world behind for good. Asuna starts to cry, asking him not to go, but Kirito turns away, saying farewell, not even calling Asuna by her name, just my lady. As Kirito walks away, he breaks down. He can't have both connections in the real world and also be this ideal version of himself in Aincrad. He either lives as Kazuto Kirigaya with Asuna and the others, or Kirito the Black Swordsman in Aincrad. Anything else would be too selfish. Asuna returns to the guild. She refuses to be that cold-hearted commander anymore, but it's clear that Kirito has given up, and so she has to move on. Heathcliff waits outside the entrance of the guild, extending his hand out, saying they have work to do. Asuna takes his hand as they go inside to discuss strategy for the next boss. Meanwhile, we see Poe and the other members of Laughing Coffin, including Sinon, gather around one another, as it's almost time for the big show. And that's part 1 of Season 2. I went a lot more in-depth than I thought I was gonna go today, and with the next arc being pretty important, I think I'm gonna call it quits here for now. I don't want to rush anything. With that being said, to enjoy even more high-quality content, check out the videos on screen right now.